In this episode, we're talking ways to make your radio station website faster and how speed can impact your visitors and your revenue.
This is Better Radio Websites, the podcast for radio professionals who want to see their website generate more traffic and revenue. Each week, your host, Jim Sherwood, and his special guests give you time-tested tips and secret tricks to ensure your radio station dominates digital in your market. Here we go.
Hi, it's Jim, and thanks a lot for tuning in this week, and thank you so much for all of the feedback that we're getting at jim@skyrocketradio.com. This is very, very fun for us, and we hope the information that we give each week is very informative to you and helps you out with your radio station website. Well, this week we're talking about speed and why it's important for your radio station website. You know, countless research papers and benchmarks have proven that optimizing your website speed is one of the most affordable and highest ROI providing investments that you can make in your radio station website. And a lot of folks are not even thinking about this. They're too busy focused on the content. And yes, we are focused on the content as well. Our last two episodes have been all about content. But you do have to keep in mind that there has to be a ratio of great content and fast loading. Because if you have one and then you're lacking in another, then things are going to start falling apart. Lightning fast page loading speed amplifies visitor engagement and retention. Every second now delay in a page load decreases customer satisfaction by 16%, page views by 11%, and conversion rates by 7%, according to a recent Aberdeen Group research study. It's also important to note that Google and other search engines uses the speed in which your website loads as a factor in where they place you in their search results. So let's say you have a local news website and your competitor has a local news and events website, and both of you have basically the same information on there, basically the same amount of visitors day after day, but their website loads a half a second faster than yours. Google will place them above you in their search results every time because that speed is a factor in where you land. All right. Now, what is page speed? Well, if you type in an address and you hit enter, or if you click on a link, the time that it takes for you to hit that click or that enter button to the time that your page is fully loaded, that is page speed. It's that load time that happens between those two events. Now, most studies show that 1 in 4 visitors would abandon a website if it took longer than 4 seconds to load. We've just got in that mentality of whenever we click something, we want something to happen right now. We've seen Star Trek, we've seen Star Wars, and whenever they push a button or move a slider or whatever, things happen immediately. None of these folks grew up in the 56K, 28.8K modem days of back in the 90s, all right? Where, hey, if it loaded in 60 seconds, you were having a banner day. 46% now of users that will not revisit a poorly performing website. If it takes more than 4 or 5 seconds to load, if it took 10 seconds to load, you can forget it. They're not even going to come back because they just have that mindset. And get this, strangely, visitors would rather spend excessive time browsing through information on an irrelevant information website looking for what they're looking for than waiting 5 seconds for a website that has exactly what they want on it, and they know that this website has exactly what they want on it. They would rather go searching through somewhere else rather than waiting that extra 5 or 6 seconds in order for that website to load. They'll just go somewhere else. So that's here to stay. So you have to make your website faster. Images make up more than 60% of data loading on web pages. So image optimization, that's right here at the top of our list. Resize your images. Be sure that those images are sized for the application that you're doing, the home page, or if it's a news page or something like that. If you load a 2000 by 2000 image, that's going to take a lot slower to load than a 500 by 500 image. Okay. We had a website early in the days of Skyrocket Radio. The client station called up and said, hey, our website is taking way too long to load. It's taking about 15 seconds to load, and that's way too long. Absolutely, it's way too long. Let's take a look at it. Well, they had uploaded images directly from their DSLR camera. You're talking 4 and 5 and 6K images, and they had like 12 of them on their homepage. We're talking like, 7 or 8, 10 meg a piece. And so Once those images were resized, the page was just smoking, loading very, very quickly. And so it's best to resize those images, get them sized down to where you need them to be. Next is to optimize your images, not just making them smaller in dimension, but actually optimizing them. Kind of think audio compression. A 128K audio file, it's going to be hard to email that, but a 44-100 audio file, that's going to be easier to send. So think audio compression. Now we want to compress our images a little bit. And you do this within either your Photoshop or your other image editor. There is, if you don't have Photoshop, there's a free online Photoshop alternative. It's called the Pixlr Editor, pixlr.com/editor. And I'll leave a link to this in the show notes, but it's actually, you don't have to download anything. It's right there in your browser. You can resize images, and whenever you go to save them, be sure that they are optimized in size. You can actually see the file size change when you move some sliders over there to the side. Be sure that you save them in a format that is right for the application as well. JPEG, PNG, and GIF or GIF, whatever it's called, they all have their different use cases, okay? And they should be used in that manner. Like JPEG would be used for regular articles and images within articles, that sort of thing. PNG really should only be used for when you have transparency. Let's say your logo in the header. That would be a good use for a PNG file. GIF or GIF, or they're only you really used for animations. So if you have an animation, that is a good animation thing. But more and more browsers are starting to put play buttons over those so they don't automatically play. I mean, what's the deal? They said that they're doing that because it's distracting for some. We want our ads to be distracting. That's why we made them animate. But anyway, so and another relatively new file format is Webp that combines the best of these image formats. Google actually came up with this. It's 30% smaller in size, and it's now more and more being supported by more modern browsers. Given the huge performance benefits, you should deliver all of your images in the Webp format whenever possible, because to my understanding, they support transparency as well. There are some online image to WebP converters out there that you can use, and you can also use vector, some SVG image formats as well. But there are some content management systems out there who don't support these. I think WordPress just came out with their latest update that actually supports the WebP image format. You'll be able to upload those now within the WordPress admin. Now, if you're on a Mac, PNG is going to be your go-to export file format, but we've seen that unless you're using a Mac and you know exactly the right settings to use, PNG files are normally 3 to 5 times the image size of the same dimension JPEG files. All right, so keep that in mind. If you actually look at the file sizes, and because the images that you want to upload to the website, they really should never be more than 25, 30K. Smaller is always better. We've actually if you go to the resources page on skyrocketradio.com, we did a blog post a year or so ago that actually shows the same image compressed down to several different file sizes. And you can see the file size drastically decrease, and you really can't tell a difference between the image. So we'll leave a link to that down in the show notes. Also, avoid image hot linking. Hot linking, well, it's kind of the art of taking an image from one website, and rather than downloading it and then uploading it to your website, you're just using the URL from this other website. And a lot of folks would say, hey, that's going to be great. I don't have to download it. I don't have to upload it. I don't have to do that. I just use this URL and be good to go. Well, there's a problem in that what if that website actually takes away the image? Well, then you have a missing image on your website. Or let's say that website is having a server issue and it's really, really slow loading. That means your page is going to be now really slow loading because the browser is holding up your page to download this image from somewhere else. That's kind of like the same thing that we said, with RSS feeds, is that you don't want to link to RSS feeds because if that wherever that RSS feed is being housed, if they're having a server issue, then your website is going to load a whole lot slower because it's waiting on that content to come in. And so you want to avoid image hot linking, taking images from other places. You also, if you have the ability of putting the security measure on your website, you want to disable other folks from image hot linking off of your website, because what that does is that can slow down your server, which will slow down your web pages if other folks are pulling images off of your website and hosting them on theirs. So don't hot link, and then disable hot linking from your website. Another thing you can do to make your website faster is minimize those ads. I know, tempting as it may seem, you want to cover the entire homepage with ads, but selling too much real estate can degrade its performance. Too many ads, slow loading ads will drive bounce rates. That means the folks that come there only look at one page and then leave. And then many of those visitors may not return because of there's so many ads. Now, I'm talking about a website that is slow loading because of those ads. Okay. We're not actually talking about, because a website with lots of ads does have its place, but if those ads are making your website slower, then you really need to look at it, because you may want to convert all of those ads over to that very small Webp format. That would make all of them very, very small, and thus your website would load fast. As long as your website loads fast, cover it full of ads. External ad services like Google AdSense, though, keep in mind that you are still pulling from somewhere else. Yes, you're pulling from Google's very fast servers, but the more calls that you have off site and bringing that information in, the more you may have to wait, because if that load is higher on their server, then it may slow you down and slow your visitors down. All right. So be sure that you take a look at that. If you're, because there are other different ad services out there other than Google AdSense. Whenever you add one of these services, actually see how your website is performing before and then after you add it. Because if it slows down your website, it may not be worth putting it on. The extra couple pennies that Google pays you for each ad that they show may not be worth your website being slower. So do keep that in mind. And again, if you do have lots of ads on your website, look into that Webp format. It may be an extra step in order for you to convert those ads over to that Webp format, but your website's going to load a whole lot faster. Another way to make it fast is to use caching when possible. Now, if you have a website service that you're using, more than likely they're already on top of this and they are taking care of this for you. But if you're doing it DIY, then there are a lot of great plugins out there that you can use. And you can also check into this at a server level as well. So what is caching? Well, caching means that certain elements of your website are stored either on the server, in a temporary storage on maybe within the site, or within the browser itself. And they are served rather than making the big calculation that the server has to do. Let's do a quick example. Pick any website in the world, your favorite website, or maybe a website that you haven't been to in a while, and actually type in the address and then hit enter. All right, it's probably going to take about 2 seconds to load, 2 or 3 seconds to load. Now hit refresh. You'll notice that it didn't take 2 or 3 seconds to load when you hit refresh. It refreshed immediately. That's caching, because a lot of those elements on there, like the logo and maybe some images on there and the style sheet that happens in the background, the first time you loaded that, it got saved within your browser or on your computer somewhere, way in the background. And so rather than load those images and everything again, what your browser does is it pulls it from locally in order to make your website load faster. Your browser actually does this without you even knowing it. I think you can turn it off in some browsers, but it does this automatically for you. All right, so that's an example of what caching is. Be sure that you have that in place, along with minimizing ads, avoid hot linking, and avoid just using any kind of external information that you're pulling from other websites. Be sure to optimize those images for the very, very smallest file sizes. These are like the top 5 things that you can do to keep your radio station website running fast. All right, I hope this information helps. Let us know how we're doing. Reach out to us, jim@skyrocketradio.com. Next week, we're going to be talking about building a local sports presence online. Fall right around the corner. Do you have a plan for local sports on your radio station website? We're going to be talking about it next week. Have an awesome week making your radio station website better. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Better Radio Websites. Inspired by today's episode? Be sure you are subscribed and share this episode with a friend. Visit skyrocketradio.com/podcasts for more episodes as well as show notes for this episode. Need help starting or making your station website better? Visit skyrocketradio.com.